Welcome back to Iron Rage, the show where John Romano and I vent our frustrations with the world. Joining us again this week, back by popular demand, Lee Priest. And today's topic, guys, is based on the article that John wrote for his T-Nation column this past month. And it's about the decriminalization of steroids. In other words, should steroids become legal, and what steps have to be done to get there? John, marijuana seems like it's heading into the area of being legalized in all the states throughout the nation. We have it so far, I think, in California, Colorado. I think Florida too has it now. What would it take to get steroids to that point?
Well, I think you need to look at the paradox of marijuana in terms of how they were first criminalized, all the way back in the first place. Marijuana was egregiously shoved down, the throats of people in a manner which scared the shit out of them. That the movie Reefer Madness was supported by the government, and it basically positioned marijuana as like the worst, insidious, most mind-altering, maniacal drug that you can get, that's responsible for murder, mayhem, madness, and you absolute losing your mind, crazy.
Wow.
So that wasn't true. It wasn't true at all. So, but it served a purpose for the the Puritans who just lost the prohibition battle with alcohol, how to focus their energy somewhere else. But the fact is that marijuana was bulldozed through Congress, bulldozed through every congressional look that it was given in order for it to find its place in Schedule 1 of the DEA's list of banned substances. Now, Schedule 1 includes heroin and experimental drugs that have no medicinal use at all, and many of which are toxic. Right. That's where marijuana is classified right now because of the mayhem hysteria that accompanied it as it went into to be adjudicated. So steroids followed the exact same path. If you look at how steroids were demonized and criminalized and made illegal in the 1990 law that Bush signed into law, the exact same thing happened. All of the truth was completely omitted. The representatives from the DEA, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the American Medical Association, plus noted experts from the Southeast and State, all recommended against scheduling steroids and to leave them as just regular prescription items. It was one lunatic, a Paige Schill, that testified for Joe Biden, and our former vice president, and Dan Lundgren, that spoke the words that they wanted to hear, and he talked about addiction and madness and unable to control yourself, bouts of hysteria, all this crazy shit that has nothing to do whatsoever with steroids. And because this whole thing is aimed at protecting our children, God forbid we couldn't have this terrible menace infiltrating the sacred hallowed grounds of sports and send a bad message to kids and potentially harm them. So the media generated hysteria around steroids, just like Reefer Madness created hysteria around marijuana. So now, you have Trey Gowdy, Congressman Trey Gowdy from South Carolina, was looking at rescheduling marijuana and taking a look at moving it from Schedule 1 to somewhere else, because clearly, the public wants to use it. Over 50% of the constituents want it. Not that he's in favor of legalizing it, but the fact remains that all of the evidence, let's call it, that was given to Congress when they originally wrote the laws governing the control of marijuana were lies. Just like all of the data that was used to, criminalize steroids were lies. So now if they're willing to take a look at marijuana and descheduling it or rescheduling it and making it legal and for completely recreational uses in certain states, then by the very same merits on that argument, steroids should fall under the same microscope. And we should look at them again, and we should reevaluate abuse potential and what happens if there's really cause for, alarm and roid rage, and if that's a viable, side effect, and how that really affects the steroids use, and what the benefits are, especially to aging males that are using it for, anti-aging purposes. So, the drugs were unfairly demonized and vilified to satisfy a presidential quest. It was George Bush's call to get rid of steroids in his 2004 State of the Union address, which led to Balco and that whole mess. So it just deserves a different look now, because we know the truth. All of what was said during those hearings against steroids in the early 2000s was bullshit. Probably the biggest one in the world was Don Hooton talking about how steroids caused his son's death.
Yeah. Let me interrupt you for a second, because you're right. The question is, how do we go about doing it? But I want to go to Lee Priest first. Lee, in Australia, what's the legal status of anabolic steroids?
It's pretty bad. If you get caught selling them, that it's small penalties. But if you had personal use in your home, it's not too bad. You don't get locked up and stuff. You'll get a slap on the wrist and that sort of thing. But getting them here, like if you want to get them for, like, say you're a male adult and you're in your 50s and 60s and your testosterone level's down, to get testosterone here from your doctor, you've got to jump through hoops. You've got to go to endocrinologist. You've got to go back every couple of months. They'll check your testosterone level for almost 12 months. And then if it is deemed to be super low, you might be lucky enough to find a doctor that will give you testosterone eventually, but which sucks, because I know heaps of women here to go through menopause. They can have their hormones, go to hormone replacement therapy straight away and get on estrogen and all this other stuff. But if you're a male and you're going through the same thing, because half this time you see, I had a friend that ran a clinic in America, and he had so many men come in that were depressed, and they were on Xanax and Prozac and all these other drugs that are worse for them. And yet when he did tests on them, their testosterone levels were low. He got them off all those other prescription drugs, gave him testosterone. They felt good as gold, like young kids again. They felt great just from testosterone alone. But, big pharmaceutical companies don't want a simple solution like that. They're making too much money. And like I said, when it comes to testosterone or any other drug, if it's done by doctor's supervision, at least you can be monitored. You can have everything checked. Whereas young kids now, or anyone that takes drugs, don't get it checked. They take too much. Plus the black market, you don't know what you're buying. They say it could be for humans, it could be for animals, or it could just be garbage that you don't know what it's for. So it was done under doctor supervision to be a lot safer, to clean up the black market a bit. Sure, you got the black market out there. I know, not sure what year it was, it's quite a few years before I moved home. For a while in Australia, we're actually given testosterone as a male, like contraception, because they worked out, given testosterone that can lower the sperm count in men. So for a while they were given it, but then all these dickhead so-called bodybuilders were going to 10 different doctors. So, the 2 or 400 milligrams a week wasn't good enough. They had to go to see 10 different doctors to get 4,000 milligrams a week. So they sort of put stopped all that shit. So, like I said, people are going to try and abuse anything, which to me, the whole abuse thing just drives me crazy. Because, like I said, the people that abuse the shit don't need to abuse it. Anyone with great genetics is going to get there, and a little bit of assistance. If you ain't got the good genetics, all the drugs in the world aren't going to get you there. So, but if it was done, like John said, under doctor's prescription and that sort of thing, black market would clean up. They've done it with other drugs. And to say this whole thing about, you hear it here all the time too, the roid rage, this and that, it makes people angry. If you're a dickhead to begin with, you're a dickhead to begin with. I've got friends that can have a few beers and they're the funniest people on earth. I've got friends that have a few beers and they want to fight every fucker that walks past them. So it's the same with drugs. People suddenly take steroids and think they're indestructible. They've got this fucking Superman suit on all of a sudden and they just go dickheads. Because face it, every gym, Gold's Gym, World Gym, all the gyms around the world, if there was such a thing as roid rage, every night, 24/7, the fucking gyms would be like a UFC match. It'd be just fucking ongoing fighting all the time.
That's a really good point, Lee, because if you think about it, there were very, very few blow-ups in Gold's Gym and World Gym back in the day. Yeah. Hardly any. I mean, the ones that were infamous because they were so rare, like when Jeep Swenson beat the shit out of Tom Platz.
It was always if there's a fight, it was over a woman half the time.
Exactly.
It was over a woman. Or someone was just annoyed because they were fucking dieting. It had nothing to do with the steroids because, like I said, the amount of people that take steroids, gyms would be full-on fighting all the time. Are you finished with that bench? No, I'm not. Well, fuck you. There's big fights going on. Or, can I have those dumbbells? No, you can't. I'm still using them. Then a big fight would start. So you don't see it. And that'd be in all pro sports, not just bodybuilding, because all the pro sports that use steroids, You don't see him out there slugging it out all the time, and you get people pissed off. But to me, it's like in bodybuilding, baseball, football. If someone gets mad and they go roid rage, no, it's just because someone, if they're at that level of the sport, or you're at the top echelons in your given sport, and championships on the line or a title's on the line, you're so passionate about it, you might get annoyed if you don't score a goal or you don't hit a home run. They go, oh, he's going off because he's bad. He's just going off because his whole life and livelihood depends on that game or depends on that contest. Sure. You might get a bit upset. It's got nothing to do with steroids. I've always said it, if I'm driving down the road and someone cut me off and smashed into me, if I get out the car and abuse him, they're like, oh, fucking roid rage, roid rage. If I was a 120-pound fitness guy and I get out the car, they're like, oh, he's just upset, isn't he? They wouldn't think roid rage, would they? But he could be taking just as many drugs. So it's just, like I said, the whole media is playing the whole bullshit. They're playing out of proportion. It's just crazy. Women on their menstrual cycle get more pissed off than guys on steroids, for fuck's sake.
All right, here's my hypothetical situation to you guys. Let's say they decriminalize steroids and they make them a regular prescription drug that's available if you want to, have some enhancement going on through the direction and discretion of the doctor, and they start writing prescriptions for decadurabolin and testosterone and Anavar, growth hormone, if you want to pay for it. John, what does that do to the athlete, to the bodybuilder? I mean, what do you think would change? Would athletes stick with doctors and go to the pharmacy and buy this stuff? Would there still be a black market?
I'm sure there would still be a black market, but I think for the serious athlete would take it from the doctor. I think, there's always going to be the gym rat morons who are, 99 cents short of a buck, going to look for any shortcut whatsoever. Buying it off the street from questionable sources is going to be cheaper than the doctor. They're going to go there. But anybody that really cares about their health, cares about what they're doing, and has a professional, outlook on it, is going to go to the doctor. They're going to get their blood work done. They're going to follow a safe, sane protocol, and they're going to get their health markers monitored regularly and make sure that they stay in good health. I think the doctors are going to need to be liberal with the amounts they're willing to write prescriptions for. I mean, that's right. Going to be a stumbling block right there, because according to most, MDs, 250 milligrams of test a week is a lot.
That would be hormone replacement. They would have to have a separate category for, physical enhancement,
Yeah, and that's, there's going to be hurdles there because you're using hyper pharmacological doses for recreation. And there's always going to be the question among the medical, community as to whether or not that's at first ethical, and secondly, what are the long-term effects? And it can't be studied, other than empirically. So we're just going to have to wait. But so far, the jury has shown that, at least empirically, that there's very little downside to steroid use.
Right. Let me ask Lee. Lee, if you were in an American, living in America again, and you had the ability to go to a doctor and basically tell him, hey, this is what I want. I'm doing a bodybuilding show in 16 weeks. This is what I need. What would you order?
I'd definitely go to a doctor. Because like I said, you get your blood monitored, you get the proper drugs, you're getting the.
What do you want? Give me the cycle. I'm the doctor. Tell me what you need for 16 weeks.
For a contest, I'd start. I always use Deca. I always use testosterone, get ready for a contest. Then I had Primobolan. Towards the end, I go to Anavar and a bit of Clen, and then I'd have a bit of Winstrol. That's pretty much it.
How much, though? I'm the doctor. I got to write the script. How much do I need to write you for 16 weeks?
I need 300 milligrams of Deca a week, 400 a test, Prima 250 a week, Anavar, depending on the strength, I'd take like 4 or 5 tabs, and they could be 10, 15, 20 milligram tabs. If I went Dianabol, I'd take like 40 milligrams a day on tablets, or if it was Anadrol, just one a day, which was 50 milligrams. So I said, when I got ready for the Ironman, the Arnold, and the San Francisco, my drugs cost me $1,800. I still remember. So it's like, I always use small amounts because, like I said, the ones in any sport with great genetics, you don't need a lot. If you're really shitty, they'll take a lot, but they still won't get anywhere, which proves drugs aren't the point, because I know guys taking 5,000 milligrams a week who still look shit. Like I said, if you've got the genetics that are out here, you take a little bit of drugs, you're going to be that little bit further. If you've got genetics that are here, you take thousands and thousands, you haven't gone far, you're still here. Be like a girl licking your asshole and you want a blowjob. She doesn't want to go all the way around, her tongue's still in your ass. You haven't got the genetic potential to make it all the way to the shaft. So that's just like, what's the point? But, like I said, if you go to the doctor, he's going to monitor you. You're going to get the right stuff, but also you're going to have to get doctors too, who, when you come in, you're going to have to have a valid reason. You can't just walk in and say, I want to go on steroids because I want big arms or this sort of
Why
thing.
not? You can get breast implants if you want big boobs.
I know. Well, that's true. It should be that way, but sadly, they wouldn't do that.
We're fantasizing here, Lee. We're fantasizing. John, what do you think the revenue stream would be for these drug companies that make these anabolic steroids if they became legal in the sense that you can get them from a doctor?
I think it would be astronomical. I mean, 15 years ago, Chuck Yasales from Penn State estimated that 1.5 million people used steroids in the country. It was either 1.5 million or 3 million. I think it was 3 million. And that was 15 years ago, or over 15 years ago. So the internet was barely in its infancy. We had practically no knowledge floating around out there. The universe of lifters is much greater now than it was back then, and the people inclined to do drugs today is far greater than it was back then. So, if it was 3 million 15 years ago, it's got to be 10 or 15 million today.
Right.
And there's a faction of people who would probably do steroids without wanting to exercise at all. So, growth hormone users, people for anti-aging and what have you. So I think there's an anti-aging community that probably would do, that would be encompass people who probably didn't work out at all. And there would be all the general lifters. I think the revenue stream for doctors who would be willing to prescribe, bodybuilder level doses and even all the way down to, life extension or longevity doses, anti-aging doses, that I think they would make a lot of money. I think a clinic geared towards doing that and, maintaining, blood work and health markers and, doing all the, blood pressure, stress testing, all the things that you would want to include with a course, a sane course of steroid use. I think they would do really well. Put it this way, the ones that get closed down were doing really good before the feds came.
Yeah. But and think about it. A woman goes to or a man goes to the plastic surgeon. They get Botox in their face, because they don't want wrinkles in their head. They get fillers in their cheeks, because they don't want furrows in there. They want their lips bigger, so they get them injected.
Get the nose. Don't forget the nose.
They get breast implants. Men get their breasts removed. They get liposuction, right, to get better ab definition, and they get butt lifts so their butt looks tighter. Why not, under a doctor's prescription, be able to take anabolic steroids to get bigger arms or bigger legs or a bigger chest?
In this day and age, you can get a sex change too now if you want. You can get it cut off or one added. So,
right.
My favorite one is that a 14-year-old girl can go to a doctor and get a prescription for steroids so she can have recreational sex without getting pregnant and not tell her parents.
I know. Think about that.
I don't want her to tell her parents on me, John.
No, tell her parents that she's getting birth control pills prescribed for her.
Exactly. Well, I don't want her to get pregnant, for God's sake.
So, John,
especially when it's my child. Jesus.
What's the process, John, that would have to take place real quickly to make this happen? Like, who would have to get behind something like this to lobby this to Congress?
A lobbyist. You'd need a lobbyist that would have to be, representing some group that's got a favorable outcome, connected with this, and that whatever politician gets behind it is going to get votes for it. So probably not a very high likelihood of it. The reason I wrote the article was to probably somehow shed some light on the fact that this is going on. The parallel exists that if marijuana can now be looked at in a light favorable enough to be decriminalized and legalized, I think for the same exact reason, steroids should be able to follow suit. And I think if enough people wrote their congressmen, if enough people talked about it, if there was enough attention about it directed towards people's representatives, I think that ultimately you might get a lobbyist to pick up on it and do something about it.
We got to get Rick Collins on the case. That's what we need. I got one final question for Lee Priest. Lee, Cody Montgomery, who is a 3-time teen national champion, a record that will probably never be beaten. He also won the USA Championships in his first open show in the amateur division. He's never lost as an amateur. He did the Arnold Classic as his pro debut. He was 8th there 2 years ago. He just announced on the RxMuscle Live with TV show that he is going down to classic physique. What impact does that decision make, and why do you think someone of his caliber at only 23 years of age would do something like that?
What impact has it made? Fucking zero. Did anyone watch that episode you fucking did of RxMuscle, him telling that? Wow, stop the fucking presses. Cody Montgomery's going down to fucking whatever class. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Fucking hell. That's fucking breaking news. That's right up there with fucking Oprah running for president. Let me fucking put that in my books. Well, when's he going to compete? I want to make sure I'm home to watch it on Skype or online. Who cares? Who cares? I haven't even heard of Cody's name. Nothing against Cody as a competitor, but I haven't really even heard about him. If someone like Phil Heath said he was going down to a division like that, okay, it might be making news, but Cody, who cares? I'm going fishing in half an hour. That's just as exciting fucking news as him going down to a fucking weight class. Jesus Christ. First Louis Marco, now it's fucking Cody Montgomery. Are you fucking hard up for stories, John? Fuck me, man.
Well,
let's talk about John's beanie. That's a nice beanie you got on, John. It's just as fucking interesting as the Cody story, for fuck's sake.
And it's useful. It's fucking cold here. So
well, Lee, one of the reasons he cites is that he felt that,
he sucks. He sucks. That's one of the reasons he sucks. He sucks as a bodybuilder. He's going to try the next class. If he doesn't go good there, he'll go down to board shorts. If he doesn't do good there, he'll get a sex change and do fitness. Big fucking deal. If he doesn't do good there, he'll just be a washed-up bodybuilder and have a heart attack and die, and they'll blame the steroids. There's Cody's life mapped out for you.
And that's why we call this Iron Rage. Lee?
I'm raging! Fucking steroid rage!
There's too much truth in what he says.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
See, he probably shot up right before the interview, John, right?
Yeah,
and then
probably.
He smoked some weed, probably, too.
It was instant. The
insulin,
yeah.
He did his Milos pre-workout insulin shot.
Yep.
Hold on, I got to calm down now.
I think it's the tattoo removal. It's too close to his brain, John. Maybe he's getting damage.
Once you start the tattoo removal, the tattoos, like the ink starts going into your system, so maybe it's going to my fucking head.
Good, huh? It's a short trip.
Yeah.
But if you want to do an interview on that on RX next time about my tattoo removal, I'm sure it'll be more interesting than Cody and fucking Louis.
Yeah, we should take a camera into your.
Oh my God!
Actually, this Sunday I'm actually cutting my grass with a mower. You want to fucking film that? That'll be more fucking interesting than Cody and fucking Louis Marco.
You got to fly that model airplane again. That was fun.
I was flying a kite the other day. I actually brought this new kite. It's actually a ship with like 10 different sails on it. So when I go fly it out, that'll be more interesting than Cody. Lee flying a fucking kite. Fuck's sake.
Lee, do you take pain?
I'll fly the kite while I'm taking a fucking shot. How's that? If you want to get on fucking RX.
Do you take pain meds when you get your tattoo removal done?
No, I don't. I haven't taken pain meds for. The only pain meds I used to take was just like ibuprofen or something, which can just be harmful. But when I had neck surgery, I had those Oxycontin and morphine type shit and that, and I went into detox for 2 weeks to get off and haven't touched it since. I'm just naturally this fucked up without pain meds.
All right, well, guys, thanks a lot. Have a great weekend, and we love the strong opinions. And once again, this is another installment of Iron Rage. I'm Dave Palumbo with Lee Priest and John Romano. We'll see you next week.
Good luck, Cody.